edition of the Blame Game. We are almost done with playoffs, heading to finals weekend this weekend, going to Chicago in a minute here. We saw this past weekend a ton of 5-game series. Both Team Liquid and EG struggled against CLG and TSM before finally meeting. They also went to 5, where EG was able to take down Team Liquid and grab the final world spot. And no surprise, that is the series that we're going to be talking about here. Now, I'm not going to be using specific comments because a lot of the things that I want to talk about are things that have been discussed in the community already. And it's, of course, the kind of people who are chomping at the bit for Team Liquid's downfall. And I am officially adding my voices to the chorus and saying, thank God that Team Liquid did not make Worlds. Now, this isn't a shot at any of the specific players on that team. I like a lot of them, and I think their early game domination shows the talent that is available on this lineup. They dominated North America all year long in the early portions of the split, but while they made lock-in finals and they were 1-2 in the regular season during spring split, they did not get any better, and the mid to late game issues plagued this team the entire year. And so I'm very glad that this team is not going to Worlds, considering the fact that they could not beat an evil geniuses who were in the middle of exploding. If you follow Danny closely over his career, I think it's fair to say that he always seems to have struggled a little bit with the community perception and feedback flame, you might call it. He has privated and unprivated his tweets a number of times, his account, changed his name, whatnot. It doesn't seem like he necessarily enjoys that part of the job necessarily. And I think that this has kind of been a long time coming in that sense. If you look back to some of his tweets from MSI, where he was talking about how he feels like people don't like him or whatever. And so I'm not trying to shade him or anything for this. It's just the reality that he's a young kid who seems to be struggling with this portion of the pro player career. You could see it in the TSM series, and you could definitely see it in the Team Liquid series with how the team is playing the game and how many resources they're funneling him. He's not nearly as core to the team's mid to late game playstyle as he was when he was feeling good and was getting funneled a lot of resources. It's just not how they were playing the games out anymore. And they had to really change their playstyle, it felt like, for how they wanted to win. And you could see it on the other players' faces when they qualified for Worlds. They were popping off in their celebration, freaking out, and Danny just looked like a wave of relief that he was able to do it. You saw him start breaking down and crying on stage, just so overcome that it seems like he was finally done with it. I personally heard rumors for this weekend that just happened that this was already a decided thing, that he was going to take a step back. And this is pure speculation based off the rumor that it seems to me like Danny felt like maybe he was the best chance for his teammates to qualify for Worlds, and he didn't want to abandon them and take the step back prior to qualifying for it. So he toughed it out as best as he could, despite the fact that he was not feeling good. And I think that's really cool if that's what he did for his teammates. And I assume that you know, crying at the end was feeling like he didn't let them down. He's done now. He can take the step back and just let it all go, hopefully. That's what I hope my interpretation is correct for the situation. That brings us full circle back to Team Liquid and why I'm glad they are not going to Worlds. They could not beat that evil geniuses who was having to change its playstyle in the middle of playoffs because one of their players was mentally fatigued and needed a break and was not playing well. The team play issues that plagued Liquid throughout the entire year will still very much on display in this series. In game 1, 7.5 minutes in, Team Liquid have pressure in the bot lane, and they want to reset and send them top to take Herald since the top side of the map is losing for Team Liquid. However, they also recall Bwipo with no TP and send him bottom, and therefore they can't contest when the EG bot lane follows them up there, and they ruin their whole reason for resetting since they can't actually contest Rift Herald here. Bwipo, the Gragas for some reason, is now the one who's getting funneled gold and XP, not the Jinx. And this play only ends up working because Jojo rando resets on a ward, which allows Team Liquid to know that's 4v4 now, and they can step forward and actually contest this. Another good example of struggling Team Liquid macro is game 3, 17.5 minutes in, where Bwipo is top with no TP while Santorin starts up the dragon. Now, in theory, this makes some sense. You can scale this game and not really need to contest the objective. Santorin can start it, maybe you can rush it down and get your second dragon, and if they show up, you just sack it and not try to contest. However, they called Bwipo down when they could just leave him top lane farming, and he goes halfway down before they call it off. He starts farming raptors instead of just staying and pushing out top. They also have Han Sama run all the way bot to top when he could have reset earlier and caught the top wave, who you actually want to be funneling this farm onto. When you watch Team Liquid in the mid to late game, it just doesn't feel like many of their plans have much concrete thought or forethought put into them, and they're just reacting to what's happening. There are a ton of examples of Team Liquid's failing in the mid to late game in terms of decision making or team fighting that you can easily pull up. These were just two that I selected that were less talked about plays that were big macro mistakes. And while EG is definitely struggling in their own right, there's at least a clear path for EG to get better, whether that's Danny coming back with a refreshed mental state or learning to play better with Kaori moving forward. But Team Liquid, we've watched this team for a year now. This is the level that you could expect from them. There's a potential that they would hit some late last minute power spike with playing scrims against international teams when they come over to North America had they qualified, but I do not want to take that gamble because realistically the level that Team Liquid was playing at is one that I would be concerned about their ability to get through play-ins if they did not have that massive jump in play. Play-ins has just been getting more and more competitive as they stuff major region teams down there, and I think there's enough of a reason to worry if Team Liquid would have made it through or just embarrassed us. EG were better than them mid-implosion and at least have the opportunity to turn things around and improve from here. So yes, it's taken me a long time to get here, but ultimately I agree with the community who have been kind of hating on Team Liquid the whole time. I held out as long as I could. I wanted to believe that they could improve and get better slowly over time, but seeing the level that they were playing at this last weekend makes me eventually agree. That's gonna do it for this episode of The Blame Game. Thank you all so much for watching. Sorry it was a little different than usual. Obviously, with Chicago coming up, I have a lot of things that I have to be tackling, so couldn't quite do it the normal way. But I'm super excited for the finals weekend. C9 has been absolutely dominating. They look like the best team in the league. I'm expecting them to continue that and take the title. Finally, Jensen gonna win one for C9. We'll see if he can pull it off this weekend. See you then.
You might not know, but I'm going to be traveling a lot soon. I haven't announced yet officially what I'm doing for Worlds and Summer Finals and other things, but there's a lot of travel coming up, and I would really appreciate your support by doing one or two or three of the following things. Subscribing to the YouTube channel if you haven't yet. Also, maybe purchasing something through alienware.com/Travis. That's always very helpful because some of that revenue comes back to TGI. And then also, Hi is here. And also, you can become a member of the YouTube channel if you want to see some content early. It's an experiment we're doing. Let me know.